Hi everybody, welcome to Reading with Rogue, or Rogues Reads, I'm sorry. It is Monday, so this is actually day 6 of our read along. Rogue just showed up. He's walking away from me. Oh, he's saying hi to Griffin. So they are ready for the story. Daisy Ray's back there behind me as usual. She's got a bone to chew on. Apparently I'm not entertaining enough, so I'm going to set the camera up. Alright, so we can get started, see what Coke and Pepsi are up to. If you remember where we left off on Friday, they got out of the school. There was, Bones took them to his workshop, garage, whatever it was, and put the GPS things in the back of their head, which sounded pretty terrible to me. And then they went home because they're getting ready to leave for their trip. So just before Coke went to sleep, he found the code under his bed. If anybody attempted to break the code and figure out what it was, what it means, who it was from, we're going to find out a little more about that today. So hopefully you guys are still following along, still reading the book. We're still reading Genius Files, Mission Unstoppable by Dan Gutman. So thanks to Dan Gutman and HarperCollins Publishers for allowing us to use this book this way. And let's see, we're finally on the road. We're going to start exploring some of these crazy, weird places across the United States as they begin their journey. Excuse me. All right, so chapter 11. On the road. Wake up, Dr. McDonald shouted from the bottom of the stairs. Today is the first day of the rest of your lives. Coke rolled over for one more minute of precious sleep. In the back of his mind, he vaguely remembered the envelope he'd found under his pillow the night before. He had memorized the message that was inside it. Kikore hitano esau hit neo eti emaluia. Just because you're classified a genius with a photographic memory doesn't mean you're good at figuring out secret messages and codes. Coke considered himself a numbers guy, an action guy, ace fist. Before he'd fallen asleep, he had slipped the envelope into his backpack so he could show it to his sister in the morning. She would be able to decipher that she was good at that kind of stuff. Who's ready to go coast to coast? Hollered Dr. McDonald as he bounded into the twins' room, clapping his hands enthusiastically. It's our manifest destiny. Not mine, Coke groaned. His dad opened the shades to let in some light and try to wake up the kids. Then he went outside and finished packing the RV, carefully going through his checklist to make sure he didn't forget anything essential. Extra water, flashlights, jumper cables, road flares, first aid kit, pens and paper, trash bags, camera, and so on. Mrs. McDonald busied herself with food, filling the little RV refrigerator and emptying the one at home. A carton of milk left in a fridge for 2 months would not be a pretty sight when they got back. Coke threw his iPod, cell phone charger, and a few books into his backpack. He was ready to go. Pep was a different story. In the last few months, she had started to care for the first time about her personal appearance. Suddenly, she was spending hours straightening her hair in the mirror and agonizing over what she should wear. Coke teased his sister as she smeared a mysterious substance she called foundation on her face to cover up a few pimples so that nobody would ever notice in a million years. Someday, she even put on nail polish or lip gloss. You're still ugly, Coke remarked as his sister imagined herself. It's genetic. He liked teasing her about her looks as they looked almost exactly alike. Let's go, Dr. McDonald shouted urgently. The open road awaits us. We gotta get through California today. Pep stuffed her hair straightening iron into her backpack. As an afterthought, Coke grabbed the frisbee and the deck of cards that Bones had given them. There would be time to kill on the road. Even if his sister couldn't throw a frisbee, he might meet somebody that could. Mrs. McDonald had prepared bagels for the kids to eat on the road. She didn't want to wait another half hour for them to eat a proper breakfast at home. Finally, everyone piled into the RV. Grown-ups in the front seats, kids in the back. Take a deep breath, everybody, Dr. McDonald said, closing his eyes. Can you smell it? Can you taste it? Taste what, Dad? Coke asked. Fresh air, his father replied. If we were taking this trip by plane, we'd be breathing stale, recycled air. We'd also be in Washington a few hours from now, Coke said. I thought recycling was a good thing, Dad, Pep commented. Not recycled air, her father replied. You kids need to get back to nature. It used to be that children would explore, learn, and become part of their world. But now they just snap digital pictures of each other, Facebook their friends, text, and Twitter. You need to slow down, enjoy the moment. You're too impatient to get to the next thing. Yeah, can we go now, Dad? Coke asked. This is boring. You don't know how lucky you are, Dr. McDonald said. Very few kids get to see this great country the way people used to, on the open road. It's soul lifting. You're going to see what makes America's heart beat. My family took a cross-country trip when I was a kid. Boy, those were some of the best memories of my life. What happened? Pep asked. I don't remember, actually, Dr. McDonald admitted. It was a long time ago. It must have made a huge impression on you, Dad, Coke remarked. Well, it was a great trip, his father insisted. I remember that much. Can we go already? Mrs. McDonald said impatiently. The sooner we leave, the sooner we get to Kansas. And why exactly are we going to Kansas? Pep asked. To see the largest ball of twine in the world, Mrs. McDonald exclaimed. Remember? Oh, yeah, Coke muttered. Dr. McDonald rolled his eyes and turned the key. The RV rumbled to life. It didn't sound like a regular car. The whole thing vibrated. Front and back doors locked, he asked Mrs. McDonald, the co-pilot. Check, said Mrs. McDonald replied. Lights out? Check. You called the post office to hold our mail? Check. You stopped the newspaper delivery? Check. Told the neighbors we'd be away until the end of summer? Check. Then we're off. Dr. McDonald shifted into reverse and carefully backed the RV out of the driveway, taking one last look at the house before heading down the street. In the back seats, the twins breathed involuntary sighs of relief. They were safe, at least for a few months. There would be no more lunatics in golf carts and bowler hats shooting poison darts at them. No more schools set on fire. No more buildings exploding. They could put all those attempts on their lives behind them. Maybe the whole thing had just been an elaborate hoax. Maybe they were being punked. Are we there yet? Coke asked when they pulled up to the first stop sign. His father turned around to shoot him a look, and Coke added, just kidding, Dad! Okay, you need to do something before we continue with the story. So I'm going to tell you guys, if you want to wait and do this after, like as part of it's one of the activities for today is we're going to do what the book tells us to do. So you don't have to do it now. If you want to, go ahead and pause this and do it. Or wait until the reading is done for the day. It's up to you. All right. Get out a road atlas of the United States. You know, one of those big Rand McNally books. Your mom or dad has one. Everybody has one. All right, and I thought this was really funny because remember I told you this book was written about 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, I think everybody did have a road atlas. I love maps, and I always had one of those great big road atlases. As much as I love maps, I don't have one anymore. So 10 years ago, this was probably true. Now it's quite possibly not true. I know they still make them. You can buy them. But I don't think people have them too much. When we can be back in the library, you're welcome to come in and take a look at ours. But in the meantime, you can use Google Maps or MapQuest, any of the great mapping softwares. They're going to let you do the exact same thing. I think Dan Gutman was just recommending that we use the atlas so we can actually like open it up and see the whole thing, which is wonderful. Which is why I'm, come in and see us at the library once we're open again and take a look at our atlases. But in the meantime, we can do all this online because if you're watching this video, I assume you've got some internet access. Go ahead and ask if you can borrow it. We'll wait. Well, ask your parents to help you get to MapQuest, or if you need, or come see me when we're reopened. All right, did you get it? Good. All right, open up to a page that shows the entire country. If you wanted to drive all the way across the United States from the Pacific to the Atlantic, there are several different ways you could go. Route 2 goes north across the top of the country from Seattle all the way to Maine. All right, so you can look up Route 20, or Route 2. Route 20 starts at the Oregon coast and winds past Yellowstone National Park, Mount Rushmore, and Niagara Falls, and ends at Boston, Massachusetts. That's the one I would do. Another way to go would be to take Route 50, which is called the Loneliest Road. It starts in Oakland, California, and goes through Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, and finally ends in Ocean City, Maryland. I actually used to live very near Route 50 and drove that route nearly every single day for a long time in Southern Ohio. There's also the legendary Route 66. That only goes as far as Chicago. Do you see them on the map? After discussing all these options, Dr. and Mrs. McDonald had chosen I-80, a superhighway that starts near San Francisco and ends in Teaneck, New Jersey. If you are local to Salem Public Library, you do probably know I-80. I-80 is the interstate that runs just north of us. So that's one we actually are familiar with. This historic route is almost 3,000 miles from one end to the other. 2,899.54 to be exact. It follows part of the path of the Oregon Trail, the California Trail, and the first Transcontinental Railroad. As they merged onto Route 1, heading south toward San Francisco, Mrs. McDonald put on one of her classic rock CDs from her youth. Some long-haired man called Steppenwolf was singing Born to be Wild. In the back seat, the kids groaned. You don't play Born to be Wild in an RV. It's just not right. It was going to be a long drive. Hey, you want to play cards or something? Coke asked his sister. He pulled out the deck of cards Bones had given them as a going-away present. I don't know any card games, Pep replied. I'll teach you one, Coke said. Did you ever hear of a card game called 52 Pickup? No. Oh, do you guys know this one? It's not very nice. It's the easiest game in the world. Coke took the entire deck of cards in one hand and squeezed it between his thumb and his first finger until the deck bent into an arch shape. Then he squeezed the deck a little more until the cards went shooting up in the air one at a time. There was a wild spray of playing cards all over the back of the RV. And that's how you play 52 Pickup, Coke said, cackling his insane laugh. You are so obnoxious, Pep told her brother. Hey, knock it off back there, Mrs. McDonald shouted. Pick up those cards. This isn't your bedroom. We all have to live in here. Coke scooped up the cards and shuffled them mindlessly. Staring out the window as they crossed the Golden Gate Bridge, he suddenly remembered the envelope he'd found under his pillow the night before. He pulled it out of his backpack and handed it to his sister without explanation. Is this another one of your dumb games? She asked, hesitating before accepting the envelope. It was under my pillow when we went to sleep last night, he whispered in her ear so their parents wouldn't hear. So Pep opened the envelope and looked at the message on the slip of paper inside. Kakor, Tano, Esau, Heat, Niao, A.T., Emluia. Oh, it's probably going to be backwards, but that's the code we're looking at. What's that supposed to mean, she asked. You got me, Coke replied. It's some kind of a cipher, Pep asked. You mean a code? Coke asked. A code disguises words or phrases, Pep explained. A cipher disguises single letters. Where'd you learn that? Everybody knows that. I didn't, Coke said. Well, you're a dope. What are you kids whispering about back there? Mrs. McDonald asked. Nothing, the twins replied together. How about we play the license plate game, Dr. McDonald piped up. Look, that car that just passed us on the left is from Florida. Not right now, Dad, Pep said. She pulled out her cell phone so she and Coke could text each other without their parents listening in. Pep, who gave you the envelope? Coke, nobody, it was under pillow. Pep, we can figure this out. Coke, you can figure it out. Pep, some genius you are. Pep carefully examined the slip of paper. Just before the explosion at the garage, Bones had told them that someone connected with the Genius files would be contacting them. This message could be important. All right, so she's got looking at the message. I'm not going to try to read it again. Pep was good at word games. Whenever the family played Boggle or Scrabble, she would beat them all. She could finish most crossword puzzles in minutes. She searched for a pattern in the letters. Her concentration was so intense she didn't notice the music in the background, the family conversation, or the miles going by. The RV rolled through the hilly streets of San Francisco and past San Francisco International Airport. The letters of the message seemed entirely random. She was stumped. We're here, Mrs. McDonald suddenly shouted as the RV rolled to a stop. What? Pep asked, looking up. We're in Kansas already? Where's the world's largest ball of twine? Asked Coke. Not Kansas, silly, Mrs. McDonald said. We're in Burlingame, California. Burlingame? The kids knew Burlingame. It's only 20 minutes south of San Francisco. What are we doing here? Pep asked. I thought we were going cross country. Then she saw the little sign. The Burlingame Museum of Pez Memorabilia. Pez? Pep asked. Who's Pez? Not who, Mrs. McDonald said. What? Hush. You really don't know what Pez is? Coke asked his sister. Are you from another planet? Pez is that candy you put in a little plastic holder, and when you move the head back, a piece of the candy pops out of the thing's neck. That sounds disgusting, Pep said as they climbed out of the RV. They actually have a museum about that stuff. Hey. Sorry, my Rogue is not being very nice, actually. In fact, do? Mrs. McDonald had heard about the Burlingame Museum of Pez memorabilia from one of her web readers, who emailed her tips all the time. She thought it would be the perfect place to feature on Amazing But True. Coke, of course, knew just about everything anybody would ever want to know about Pez. He had read a magazine article about it in the dentist's office and remembered every word of it. Pez, he told others, was invented in 1927 by an Austrian businessman named Edward Haas. He got the name by abbreviating Pfefferminz, the German word for peppermint. Mrs. McDonald grabbed her laptop computer and led the rest of the family into the museum. For a real Pez head, this must be what heaven is like. The museum had 683 different Pez dispensers, including some vintage ones from the 1950s, and the extremely rare Pez pineapple-wearing sunglasses. Even Coke learned a thing or two he didn't know. Pez, for instance, was originally sold as a mint to people who were trying to quit smoking. In one room was the world's largest Pez dispenser. It was almost 8 feet tall and looked sort of like a skinny snowman. Isn't this cool? Mrs. McDonald asked, taking a photo to put on Amazing But True. Oh yeah, Mom, Pep said. Totally. Actually, it was pretty cool, but Pep wasn't about to admit it. Things are cool when parents think they aren't cool. If parents think something is cool, then, by definition, it can't be. Any kid knows that. Dr. McDonald looked over the array of Pez memorabilia, shaking his head the whole time. He had spent the last 20 years of his life teaching and writing scholarly articles about American history. He could be visiting Valley Forge. He could be visiting Lexington and Concord. But here he was, staring at the largest Pez dispenser in the world. He sighed. These are the sacrifices grown-ups make for marriage, he figured. I don't get it, Dr. McDonald mumbled. What's the dispenser for? Why can't you just eat the candy without putting it in a dispenser? The dispenser's cool, Dad, Coke informed him. The candy tastes better when it comes out of Mr. Spock's neck. I don't know about that. The Pez Museum also had a section devoted to classic toys such as Tinker Toys, Colorforms, Viewmaster, and Lincoln Logs. The McDonald family spent a few minutes looking over the watches and t-shirts in the gift shop before piling out the door and back into the RV. Mrs. McDonald bought a Pez dispenser for each of the twins as a souvenir. A Coke Pez for Coke and a Pepsi Pez for Pez. Ben, you left the key sitting in the RV with the window open, Mrs. McDonald complained. Anybody could have come along and driven this thing off. Sorry, Dr. McDonald replied, and he was. He had a habit of forgetting to lock his car and take the keys. As they pulled out of the parking lot, Pep pulled out her pad and returned to the cipher. Yep, she's looking at the code again. The short break proved to be a good thing. It allowed Pep to take a fresh look at the cipher. Now she was seeing hidden words such as core, tan, heat, and tea, but she still couldn't put them together into a coherent sentence. Coke leaned over his sister's shoulder to check her progress. Maybe the spaces between the words are just decoys, Pep thought as she took a piece of paper and a pencil out of her backpack. The spaces make it look as though those are separate words, but they may have been inserted within the letters to make it harder to decipher the message. So she rewrote the message, closing up the spaces. Didn't make it any clearer. Maybe it's in another language, Coke whispered. It looks like it might be Hawaiian or something. Or it could be a transposition cipher, Pep mumbled to herself. She wrote out the cipher again, but this time in reverse order. I, whale, meet, yow, ein, say, hause, oan, hatha, roak. There must be a mistake in there somewhere, Coke whispered. No, Pep said. Wait a minute, it must have nulls in it. Nulls, Coke asked. What's a null? A fake letter, she told him, a letter that doesn't mean anything. How do you know this stuff? I just do, she replied. I'll take out all the A's and see what happens. So Pep rewrote the message. And this time it said, I will meet you in the house on the rock. Stop. Interesting. All right, well, you know what? We are about out of time for today. That was actually a really long chapter, but we're on the road. I'm just trying to decide if I want to continue. You know what? The next chapter is really short. I am going to go ahead and continue. I'm going to grab a drink of water real quick. So chapter 12, ups and downs. I will meet you in the house on the rock. What the heck was that supposed to mean? Pep looked at the words she had written. I've never heard of a house on a rock, she whispered to her brother. There are probably thousands of houses that are built on rocks, Coke replied. Maybe it's another secret message that means something completely different. These Genius Files people are so annoying, Pep complained. Why don't they just tell us what's going on? Why do they have to make us figure it out? The message didn't necessarily come from them, Coke said. It could have come from anybody. Then who are we supposed to meet in the house on the rock? Pep asked, knowing she wasn't going to get an answer. And when? This message doesn't tell us anything. We'll just have to keep our eyes open, Coke said, ending the discussion. Dr. McDonald hopped on Route 101 north through the city and picked up Interstate 80 east as the RV crossed over the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge. They were on their way now. If they wanted to, they could just stay on I-80 all the way across the country. Just 1,547 miles until we get to the largest ball of twine in the world, Mrs. McDonald said excitedly after punching the data into her laptop. And 2,762 miles to Washington. That is a long way to go in an RV. Pep did a quick mental calculation. If they averaged 65 miles an hour, it would take them more than 42 hours to drive to Washington. That would be without stopping, of course. Once you add in sleeping, eating, stopping for gas, and just getting out to stretch their legs, it would be closer to... Oh, she didn't want to think about it. And then, after they got to Washington and went to the wedding, they would have to drive that whole way back home, too. It was going to be a long summer. Pep was already bored and the trip had just begun. Coke turned on his iPod and got lost in the music as he mindlessly shuffled the deck of playing cards Bones had given them. The McDonalds were cruising along I-80 for a little more than 50 miles when they started to see signs for Leisure Town and Nut Tree Airport. Dr. McDonald pulled onto Interstate 505 North. Where are you going, Dad? Coke asked. Why did you get off I-80? Ask your mother, Dr. McDonald grumbled. We're going to the National Yo-Yo Museum, Mrs. McDonald exclaimed. It's only about 2 hours from here. We're driving 2 hours out of our way to look at some yo-yos? Coke asked, slapping himself on the forehead. Not just some yo-yos, hundreds of yo-yos. Glow-in-the-dark yo-yos, see-through yo-yos, Flintstone yo-yos, and Star Wars yo-yos. The National Yo-Yo Museum has everything from antique 1920s yo-yos to today's metal alloy yo-yos with a centrifugal clutch transaxle, whatever that is. Mrs. McDonald gasped as the family walked inside the Bird in Hand, an educational toy store in Chico, California, where the National Yo-Yo Museum is located. This was her kind of place. Feast your eyes, kids, Mrs. McDonald said, pulling out her camera to document the majesty of it all. You are standing in front of the world's largest wooden yo-yo. It was a monster of a thing, 256 pounds. The string, unrolled, was 75 feet long. A little plaque on the floor said that Big Yo was only used a few times. Once it was dropped off a crane over San Francisco Bay. The world's largest Pez dispenser is bigger, Coke said, unimpressed. He knew all about yo-yos, of course, having once seen an article about them while he was bagging up the newspapers for recycling. He told the family that the yo-yo was invented in China, and the Greeks had them way back in 500 BCE. Daisy Ray thinks it's time to play now. She's brought me a toy. Fascinating, Dr. McDonald said sarcastically. I hope this museum doesn't get any government funding. This is real history, Dad, Coke told his father. You know, legend has it that Filipino hunters would hide in trees and hunt animals by bonking them on their heads with yo-yos from above. And during the French Revolution, people who were about to be guillotined would ease their tension by playing with yo-yos. I know that if they were about to chop off my head, Dr. McDonald replied, I would want to use that time to play with a toy on a string. The kids watched videos of people doing insane yo-yo tricks. There were some sample yo-yos on display, and Coke and Pep tried to do the tricks with limited success. After a short time, the kids had enough yo-yoing. They went out to the parking lot looking for something to do while Mrs. McDonald conducted her yo-yo research for Amazing But True. Their dad had left the RV door unlocked as usual, so Coke went in and grabbed the Frisbee that Bones had given him. He held it out to Pep. I don't want to, Pep told her brother. I don't know how. In a few days, you're going to be 13 years old, Coke told his sister. It's about time you learned how to throw a Frisbee. It's a life skill everybody should have. He handed her the disc, backed up 10 yards, and urged her to give it a try. She flung it wildly, of course, curving it off to the side and almost hitting a parked car. Hold it level, Coke instructed as he ran off to retrieve the Frisbee. Don't just use your arm, put your whole body into it and snap your wrists like this. He made a perfect return toss, which Pep dropped. One more time, he encouraged her. Pep tried to do as her brother said and proceeded to fling the Frisbee high into a grove of trees next to the parking lot. You are totally pathetic. You know that? Coke told his sister. Come on, help me find it. They ran into the woods and started poking around. A white Frisbee should not be hard to find in a grove of green trees, but it wasn't there. Or at least it wasn't within sight. It's got to be right here, Pep said. I saw it go into the trees. You owe me $10 to get a new one, Coke told her. I do not, she replied. You didn't pay for that Frisbee. Bones gave it to you. At that moment, the twins walked around a thick maple tree. There was a rustling noise from above, and then suddenly everything went dark. Something had fallen on their heads. What the? It was a large plastic tarp, the kind that people put under their tent when they go camping. Somebody grabbed them and wrapped two big arms around the tarp to prevent them getting away. Shh! Quiet! A man's voice warned. Help! Pep tried to yell, but the sound was muffled by the tarp over her face. Keep your mouth shut and you won't be hurt, the man barked. The twins struggled for a few seconds, but soon it became obvious that it was hopeless, and they stopped fighting. That's when their assailant pulled the tarp up over their heads and revealed himself. It was Bones! The McDonald twins gasped. Is this what you were looking for? A woman's voice said. The twins gasped a second time when they saw who was standing behind Bones with a Frisbee in her hand. It was Maya, the woman in red who had saved their lives when they were being chased off the cliff by the men in golf carts. You're alive? Pep asked, her eyes wide with wonder. We thought you died when the building exploded, Coke told Bones. I was down in the basement, Bones said. All I got was a flesh wound. Aren't all wounds flesh wounds, Coke asked. What else would you wound besides flesh? We thought that dart killed you, Maya, Pep said, hugging her. We thought you died in our arms. The poison wore off in a few minutes, Maya informed them. I was fine. I returned your backpacks to school for you. Pep thought back and remembered what had happened at the cliff moments after Maya collapsed. Suddenly, she turned around and punched her brother in the stomach. Oof! Coke exclaimed. Are you crazy? What did you do that for? Because you pushed me off the cliff, his sister yelled. I was trying to save your life, Coke yelled back at her. Even if they hit me with one of those dart things, I would have survived, Pep yelled again. Maya survived. You didn't have to push me. We didn't have to go over that cliff. Okay, I'm sorry, Coke said, rubbing his sore stomach. How was I supposed to know that? She looked pretty dead to me. I had to make a snap decision. Give me a break. Bones stepped right between the angry twins. You did the right thing pushing your sister off the cliff, he told Coke. If you two had been captured up there, you would not be alive today. I'm quite sure of that. Look, we don't have time for pleasantries, Maya interrupted. I'm sure your parents are wondering where you are, but we have important information for you. Is it about a house on a rock? What? Bones replied. What house on a rock? Didn't you put an envelope under my pillow last night with a coded message about meeting you in a house on a rock? Coke asked. No, Bones replied. You must be confusing me with the Tooth Fairy. Listen carefully, Maya said. We found something out that is crucial to your survival. Some of the people who were involved in the Genius Files have abandoned our cause and now actively oppose us in the program that Dr. Warsock created. Your health teacher, Mrs. Higgins, is one of them. There are others. Those bowler dudes, Pep said. Right, said Maya. We don't know why these people are trying to kill you, but we're going to find out. How about finding out fast, Coke said, before they actually do kill us? We're trying our hardest, Bones told him. In the meantime, we have your first mission. We intercepted a text message late last night. There's going to be a terrorist attack. Yikes. Where? Coke asked. In the United States, Maya said. Can you be more vague? Coke asked. It will be at the site of the largest ball of twine in the world, said Maya. We're going there, Pep exclaimed. Our mother has this weird website called Amazing But True. We know, said Bones. How do you know? Asked Coke. You'd be surprised at how much we know, Maya replied. But that's crazy, Pep said. Who would attack the largest ball of twine in the world? The largest cat in the world? Suggested Coke. I didn't say they're necessarily going to attack the ball of twine. All we know is there will be an attack at the site of the ball of twine. What are they going to do? Coke asked. We don't know, Bones said. When are they going to do it? Coke asked. We don't know that either. How come you know so much about us, Pep asked, but you don't know anything about them? We know they're trying to kill you, Maya said, and they won't stop until they're successful or until we kill them. So what are our instructions? Coke asked. Simple. Stop the attack, Bones replied. Why can't you stop the attack? Pep asked. We'll try to get there also. But there are other genius files, children, we are monitoring. We can't be everywhere at all times. How are we supposed to stop the attack? Pep asked. All we know is where it will be. We don't know when. We don't know how. I'm sure you'll think of something, Bones interrupted her. You're geniuses, right? That's why you were chosen. We must leave, Maya said. Not a word of this to anyone. That's the end of the chapter 12. All right, so things are getting exciting. You're off on their road trip. There's going to be a terrorist attack at the Ball of Twine, which does seem strange, but I'm sure there's a good reason for it. So I already mentioned one of the activities that I want you to do today, and that is to look at the map and see where they are, where they're starting out from. Take a look at the different routes across the United States, like Dan suggested we should do. I'm going to post links to I'm going to try to find the Pez Museum and the Yo-Yo Museum, so you can check those out online. If you have either a Pez collection or you know how to do yo-yo tricks and you want to share either of those with us, pictures or video, I would love that. Please post them in the comments so we can see it. I will be back again at 4:30 tomorrow to find out more about Pep and Coke and their adventures. Hopefully they get out of California at some point, though. I don't know. I think there's a lot of museums in California. Their mom may be stopping at all of them. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. So I'm recording this on Monday morning and the sun is shining. It's absolutely beautiful. So go outside and get some fresh air, but stay away from each other. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.